I remember a family member once told me yoga is demonic. And honestly, I just stared at them for a second and asked, how? And they said something along the lines of, the poses people do in yoga are rituals that open portals for demons. The body positions make people easier to possess spiritually. And the thing is, I didn't even argue back. Not because I agreed, I didn't, but because I've realized that when someone's beliefs are deeply tied to their identity, debating them usually goes nowhere, especially with religion. Because for many people, their beliefs aren't just beliefs, it's who they believe themselves to be. So when something challenges that framework, the defense naturally becomes very strong. And honestly, I understand why. A lot of Christians are taught from a young age that anything outside of Christianity is dangerous. Anything spiritual outside of God, Jesus, the Bible, or the church can quickly be labeled as demonic, satanic, deceptive, or evil. So, meditation, tarot, energy healing, manifestation, yoga, you name it. All of it immediately gets grouped together. And yoga is probably one of the biggest examples of this. So I wanted to talk about it more deeply because I think a lot of fear around yoga actually comes from misunderstanding. So first of all, what is yoga? Most people in the modern world, they see yoga as a physical practice, stretching, breathing, mobility, relaxation. And scientifically, it generally has many benefits. It can help reduce stress, regulate the nervous system, improve flexibility, improve body awareness, and help people become more present. But traditionally, yoga was also spiritual. It originated in the East and was deeply connected to self awareness, mindfulness, and ultimately transcending the ego. And I think that is partly why some Christians fear it, because the moment something exists outside of Christianity, especially something spiritual, is often automatically viewed as dangerous. But I think the deeper question is this: why is becoming more self aware seen as threatening? Why is dismantling the ego considered evil? Because even religion itself often teaches humility, surrender, compassion, detachment from pride. So, why does yoga become demonic for some people? And part of it comes from yoga's roots in Hinduism. Okay, so historically, some yoga practices and postures were connected to devotion and spiritual symbolism within Hindu traditions. And because Christianity often views non Christian deities as false gods or demonic influences, some Christians believe practicing yoga, even unknowingly, opens you up spiritually in dangerous ways. But personally, I think intention matters because most people doing yoga today, right, are not sitting there trying to worship deities or invite demons into themselves. Most people are literally trying to heal their body, calm their mind, process stress, or reconnect with themselves. And honestly, a lot of the fear around yoga also comes from misunderstanding emotional and spiritual release. Okay, so sometimes during yoga, meditation, breathwork, or just deep spiritual practices, people cry. Some shake, some jolt, and some feel overwhelming emotions rise to the surface. And to someone unfamiliar with nervous system release or deep emotional healing, that can look frightening to the eye, okay? Especially if they are already believing anything spiritual outside their religion is evil. But many of these reactions are actually very normal. When people spend years suppressing pain, trauma, grief, stress, fear, or emotions inside the body, eventually those things need somewhere to go. And practices like yoga, meditation, and breathwork can bring these emotions to the surface. Not because someone is possessed, but because the body is releasing stored tension and emotion. In spiritual traditions, some people associate this with something called kundalini energy, which is believed to be a kind of life force energy within the body. And it is. But I understand that people interpret that differently, depending on their beliefs. Many describe experiences like greater clarity, emotional healing, heightened awareness, compassion, inner peace, a stronger connection to themselves and life. And honestly, none of that sounds demonic to me. It sounds like healing, true healing. But I think when people are raised to fear spirituality outside of religion, anything unfamiliar to them, to their beliefs, right, immediately becomes associated with danger, especially experiences they cannot intellectually explain. And this is something I've noticed in general. A lot of people fear what they don't understand, not just with yoga, with spirituality as a whole. And to be clear, I'm not saying everyone needs to practice yoga. I'm not trying to convince anyone to change their beliefs. But I do think people should question why they fear certain things. Is the fear coming from genuine personal experience, or is it inherited conditioning? Because there's a difference. And personally, I don't believe a practice focused on presence, breath, healing, awareness, and essentially connecting more deeply with yourself is inherently evil. If anything, I think more people are simply reconnecting with parts of themselves they were taught to suppress. And yoga is just one path that can help people do that.